The longest campaign that I've ever ran went over 300 sessions. One player who started the campaign many years ago made it to the end, and he recorded all his hours. 294 hours of gameplay is what he recorded that he went through from the start until the end. Most sessions were at least 8 hours long each, though we did extend many beyond 8 hours. You know, I tell you that I'm a public game master, but I also have ran for friends, people that I know, family, shit like that. Yeah, so I had experiences being a public game master, and then a lot of experience being an at-home game master with my friends and family. I mixed it up, right? I did and I have always liked running games for personal friends and family of mine, but at the same time, I like to go to the public and run a game for strangers because I'm not shy and I'm excited to do that. I've done both over the years. The long campaign was for a personal group of friends and family. The longest campaign I have ran with people that I started with that were strangers, well, that went over 200 sessions, and I did not record the hours of gameplay. And do you know what I really learned from that entire experience running these long campaigns? The length of the campaign doesn't really matter at all. At the end of the day, people think that matters. It doesn't. The actual gaming session is always going to be the only thing that really matters. Coloring up a session, romanticizing a gaming session, I don't bother doing that. I just hope the gaming session is exciting, and I don't have to paint the picture up to be more than what it really is, right? I don't have to lie. My explanation of the gaming session should sound boring in comparison to the actual gaming session. If my explanation of the gaming session makes it sound more exciting than it honestly is, I need to stop doing that right away because it's not doing me any favors. I'm valuing something that isn't worth valuing, and I'm putting something second place at that point, which is the thing I should value. The actual gaming session, not my talk outside of that, not how I try to, paint the picture up of that being something more than what it is. I want the session to be exciting. The explanation should put you to sleep. The gaming session, the actual, playing the game, is the most important thing to me, and that is why I especially get mad at players, especially adult players, that fuck around. You are a 30-year-old man. In the middle of a gaming session, you start replying to a text from a friend who's only casually talking to you. It's not an emergency. It's not a big issue. But in the middle of the gaming session, you grab your phone and start replying to that text. Do I have to tell you that that is inappropriate? No. The player knows it's inappropriate, but we have many adult players in the hobby, probably the majority, sadly, that would do that in a fucking heartbeat. I wish players knew over the years how many game masters do a certain thing in private that they hide from you. And what I mean is, you come in and you piss that game master off at the start of a session, and at the end of the session, your characters are all dead. I wonder why that is. Or man, you thought you knew what was up. Like, as a player, you knew what happened last session. You planned for things. You're getting ready. But in the first 20 minutes, an adult player has done something inappropriate. And next thing you know, there's all kinds of bad shit coming your way in the gaming session. Like, you didn't plan for this. Where is this from? Is this part of the game? Or in reality, is it coming from the fact that somebody pissed that game master off at the start of a gaming session? And I gotta tell you, I have spoken to some of the nicest game masters in the entire hobby. Some of the most respected people I know that game master. And they have done this, right? They have done this. I'm lucky to have avoided it. And people, they actually believe me when I say I avoided it, because I would bitch about this stuff afterwards. But I'd always have it in my head that I don't punish the players. I don't punish the characters in some unrealistic way because of my emotions. But I got to tell you, I met many game masters that if you piss off in the wrong way, well, the outgoing anger won't be noticed because there'll be no outgoing anger. They will indirectly fuck your characters over or fuck your experience over. And this is coming from people that are some of the fucking nicest game masters in the entire hobby. Some of the most respected people you can encounter, they do this. So if you're going to piss them off, understand the outcome. But really, that guy on his phone in that inappropriate way, that spoils my mood. That can ruin my night. Of course, I come in excited and now you're pissing me off. Like, I'm a human being. If you're going to spit in my face, do you expect me to be okay with it? Honestly, I have no patience for fucking trash players. Like the type of trash player that will sit in the seat and they'll sit back, right, in this lazy fucking way, fucking slumped in their seat, barely sitting up, barely paying attention. Get your shit and go, dude. Get your shit and go. Go play checkers, right? That's the appropriate game for you. Oh, and rule lawyers. Like, look, I don't mind people that want to step in and say, hey, what about this or what about this? Fair enough, you can always do that. But I have a rule for rule lawyers. You make your statement, I respond, and then you shut the fuck up and we play. If you speak beyond that without me asking you to speak further on that subject, say goodbye. You'll find yourself out of the gaming session and out of my gaming group. Because the moment you have argued beyond the point where you can bring something up, you are now messing with my job to manage the game and manage the table. And the second you go from just bringing something up as you should be able to messing with my work and my job, you're out of the fucking group in a fucking heartbeat. I'll be happy to kick your ass out, and I've kicked many people out of my game over it, very happily to do so every time. Even people I've known for years, they're like, I can't believe you're doing this. Well, I can. Here's my boot up your fucking ass. Get to moving. And yeah, I can be a hardcore fuck when it comes to inappropriate behavior from players. You want to casually text on your phone? Get moving. You want to slump in your fucking chair and not pay attention? Get moving. Because I know the most important thing in this hobby, the most important thing, is the actual gaming experience, the sitting down and playing the session. And if you mess with that experience, I don't care what else you do around the game, but if you mess with that experience, let alone I kick you out of my group, I think you should be booted out of the fucking hobby. If gatekeeping overall for the hobby was a thing that you could really do, those would be the people I would say before anybody else, gatekeep those players out of the hobby. Period. That's what I would say. The guy who thinks it's okay to casually text in the middle of a gaming session instead of paying attention to the game, yeah, gatekeep that useless cunt out of the fucking hobby forever. So I want everyone to re-examine what they value in the hobby. And I want you to make the experience at the gaming session to be the most important thing that you value in the hobby. Because if you value that, you'll most likely act right because you'll be seeking a good experience with that. If that's what you want and that should be the thing that you want, you'll behave better. If you romanticize everything else outside of the gaming session, well, you'll probably be the guy slumped in their fucking chair or on the phone in the middle of a gaming session instead of paying attention. I don't want that person. And if you want to be that person, avoid me. I don't worry too much about what gaming companies do to the games, right? I really look at what we're doing. Because some of the most horrible things companies have done with these games over the years, I think it has to do more with the fault of the customer base. Because it's the customer base that was stingy and picky and everything else, and not the majority. But many old school game masters thought they owned the entire hobby and had complete control over it. And they would not serve the majority of players in the way that they want. And that's when we look at business. Because what happens in the business world when there's a cry out for something? When the majority of people in that hobby or in that thing are wanting something. Well, if you don't fill the need, somebody else will come in and fill the need for you. And so back in the day when old school dungeon masters could have measured in new ideas and new things in a reasonable way, they didn't bother to. Again, it was ego. They thought they owned it. No one's ever going to challenge them, so they can always have it their own way. But when WotC came along, WotC said, well, hey, majority of customers that want more, we'll give you more. And we'll give it to you in a terrible way, but we'll give you more, because obviously those old school DMs won't give you more. So we will. And what did the majority of our players do when WotC showed up on the playing field? They ran to them, which meant the majority of the old school DM's player base ran away. And if you don't think so, I mean, I can't tell you how many old school DMs were forced into retirement after WotC brought out 3rd edition. They did not want to run 3rd edition, neither did I, but unlike me, many old school DMs simply could not get new players, and their players have already ran off to play 3rd edition, and they refused to move over, so what happened? Many of them quit. Now, with some success with the OSR, some of them have come back into the hobby, and if you pay attention, you'll notice a lot of guys saying, yeah, I was out of the hobby for like 10 or 20 years, and I finally came back. Well, they left because the player base vanished. And it took really getting online for more old school people to start meeting up, because locally, for a lot of old school guys, it became impossible to get players. So the only way they could game was to get on here. So I'll give it to the online world. For many of those guys who quit the hobby for a while, that opened the door back up for them. Anyway, there is so much chaos in this hobby, so much bullshit that you should just ignore. And you should, it's too much. So focus on the gaming session, forget the rest. For now, take care.